Hello, welcome to the Hope Cymru Talk Show. I'm Marcus Nelson and I'm joined today by Dave Gobbett. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Dave. I'm the lead pastor of Highfields Church here in Cardiff. Been here for just over 9 years. Married to Sally. We've got 4 kids between the ages of 14 and 7 and love serving God here. I'm an Englishman in Wales, but what a great place to serve.
It is. It's fantastic to be ministering with you. Great to be friends as well, Dave, and fantastic to be able to chat in this way. Problem is, we could talk all day. Once we get started, we could talk all day. We could talk for England. The question we'll be thinking about is doing whatever makes you happy, and does that actually make anyone happy in the real world? In the sort of the middle of the pandemic, December 2020, about 1/3 of the people in Wales in a poll said that they were happy. Spring, then moving on to spring 2022. So as things are drawing to a close, about half the people in Wales said that they were happy. When life is going the way we want it to, we can feel, now I think things are going okay, I'm happy. Is doing whatever makes you happy enough to really make anyone happy in the actual real world?
I think we all are attempting to find happiness in our lives. Look, someone called James K.A. Smith talks about how we're homo adorans, we're pleasure seekers. We want to worship something. We're like sharks on the move. We're just constantly looking for the next thing. Not the next kill, but we're looking for the next thing that will satisfy us and will complete us and will give us the sense of purpose and meaning and identity and happiness, honestly. So I think we're all doing it. We're all seeking to pursue it. And I suppose the big question is, where are we pursuing it? And how's that going for you? Honestly, I think whether it's the young adult who's pursuing the relationship, whether it's the successful career person pursuing the upgrade, whether it's the more mature person who's looking forward to retirement and the cruises and the taking time off, whether it's the sportsman wanting to make the next trophy or the next league they get into, or the musician, etc. So we're all pursuing the next thing, looking for that ever elusive thing that will make me happy. The question is, God has made this world. He's designed this world with so many beautiful commodities for our good, to make us happy. Okay, so it's not that enjoying food or beauty or creational things like play and work and relationships and sex and art. It's I wouldn't want to kind of be an ascetic and suggest that these are bad. We need to just kind of embrace the sackcloth and the kind of the ashes. No, that's not a Christian tradition. Everything God has made is good and to be used for our enjoyment, etc. But within the framework of these are not ultimate things. These are created things that in their place give our hearts joy. But my goodness me, that the mistake of accidentally worshipping the created thing, as opposed to the creator pursuing the created thing for my pleasure, for my joy, for my happiness, rather than the creator. That sounds a ridiculous thing that you would do. Like, why on earth would you do that? Why on earth would you worship the Christmas present and fall in love with the Christmas present rather than the person, the loving person who gave you that? But so often we just do that crazy equation, and we pursue those things rather than the person, the being, the one who is the source of all these blessings. And yet, sadly, that is precisely what Augustine talks about, the kind of inclination of our hearts being curved inwards. We just instinctively curve in rather than curving out and up and looking towards the one who made us, for himself, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in him, he would say. And yet we consistently trade that living water with broken cisterns, to use Jeremiah's language. So we do this completely crazy equation. Why do it instinctively? And it's foolish, and it will never satisfy me. Yet Christ is just there saying, "Come to me and have life in all its fullness." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, but I want to go off and make stuff."
Yes.
What a fool I am.
And we're seeking all these different things that never really fully satisfy you. And at very best, they give a fragile happiness that lasts for a time, but that deep joy that we're seeking is elusive. We can't ever find it in that way.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis once spoke about the fact that we are like children that make mud pies in the slums, whereas we could be making sandcastles by the sea. Tell us more then, Dave. So if we're made in this way with infinite capacities, we might say, such that even if we have 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, even then, you know, we're not really satisfied without becoming a diminished person. You know, so it's not to say that can't. There is a particular kind of person, isn't there, who almost does satisfy for small things, but it does diminish them. But we're made with this infinite capacity for love and meaning and beauty, truth, and purpose. Tell us more about that, Dave. You know, what is that we're looking towards and talking about?
Well, ultimately, we're talking about a person. We're talking about knowing and loving a person rather than a thing. You know, and even the thing could be persons. It could be the relationship. It could be the relationship I do have or the relationship I don't have. But you know, each of these things are created commodities that have been have been given to us by our Creator God for our enjoyment, for our blessing. Paul would say it's the religion of demons that decries and says, you know, eating delicious foods or having relationships are bad things. That's the religion of demons. So we don't want to go that way. But equally, we can kind of overswing. So often in life, we overswing where we move from we move from undervaluing this to just overvaluing it, and think that they are gifts to us by a Creator God who made us, who knows how we're best wired, right? He knows that we need more than water and food and sleep and exercise. We need to know the one who made us. That's really what that's if you think about human beings being made in God's image, and that means many things, but it means that we're to relate to the God in whose image we're made, and to relate to Him in love and in worship and in joy. Jesus did say, "Come to me, and you'll have life in all its fullness." And that's a rich theme within the New Testament, isn't it? So you think of Paul in prison, facing tough stuff. People are kind of talking about him in harsh ways. He's on his own. He strikes me as somebody who really wants to be out there doing ministry, but he's kind of trapped down. And yet he can say, "Rejoice in the Lord always." I'll say it again, rejoice. And his heart couldn't be fuller in relation to the ministry that he's even doing in that very, very kind of shrunken, you would think, way. But it's the fullest way possible. So,
So it's amazing, Dave, isn't that way? We've been made by this infinite and eternal God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who has the capacity to meet all of our needs and longings and fulfillment. And anything less in the end, if we try to settle for anything less, it always reduces and diminishes us and never fully satisfies. It's only Jesus Himself, infinitely and eternally loved of His Father and pouring out that same love upon us by His Spirit. What's that thread that runs through the Psalms, Psalm 115, 135, and the prophets? That we are all, in a sense, godly. We become like what we worship. So what will happen to a person if we worship something which is a commodity, an item, a physical thing? What will happen to us as we engage in that process?
Well, exactly. Psalm 115. I was going to refer to it. It's deeply dehumanizing when we worship. When we worship and stare, longingly into the face of a thing, an idol. The dumb idols, which we can't talk, can't act. We will just become like them. We'll find ourselves less the full people we were designed to be. We'll find ourselves not speaking out words of blessing and words of encouragement and words of hope. We'll find ourselves not doing the kinds of things, the loving God, loving neighbour, blessing the world, which we were made to do, because we're just obsessing over this thing. Or we look with unveiled faces at Christ, which is the 2 Corinthians 2 and 3, picking up on the Moses language, when he's up the mountain, he takes it, he has to cover his face. He's just like looking at one of these bright lights and his face is glowing. In the gospel, as we gaze on Christ, we fill up, and we can't be silent. The dumb idols will just make us dumb. We'll have nothing of value to say. As we look to Christ, the one who has spoken life into this world, we will find ourselves. You try and keep us silent. We'll want to speak life into this world in different kind of places. The one who gave himself, and not to be served, but to serve, we'll find ourselves being transformed into servants who are just like ready to do the master's business and to transform the world through love of God and love of neighbour, etc. So as we gaze on Christ, we're just filled up, and honestly, you can see this. If you don't believe me, okay, here's a little thought experiment. Look at a very old person. Yeah. When you get old, and I'm getting older, but as you get older, you go one of two ways. You increasingly curl in on yourself, and I don't just mean physically, of course, but you've spent your life gazing at stuff. And it'll shrivel you up. Or if you spend your life gazing at Christ, then I can think of people in my church, right, who are hunched over physically, but they're inside. They're radiant. They're giants in the church. They're the smallest people in the church. They're the biggest people in the church. And or you can see someone who might be old and successful in the world's eyes, our culture. He or she's got everything. They've had it all, and they might look really big, but they're just a shriveled. It's a sadness.
I know, and I always think, not that we're drawing any direct lines between the two, but I always think it's fascinating, even in sort of lineups of criminals in those. It's brilliant, when you see the lineups. And then especially when you see, the pictures of notorious serial killers, people that have committed great evil, they're reduced and diminished, and they look very, very similar. There's a strange sort of like reducing of a person through, committing great evil, whereas the great saints who have trusted and loved and known Jesus for many, many years, they're distinct, they're unique, they're flourishing, they're fully alive, as they trust and follow him. Give us some examples, Dave, of like what that looks. I was going to ask you for, a great Christian of the past, or, a great Christian that but give us some examples even in your church, at the moment, of people who are, as they trust, follow Jesus, they're becoming more and more like him, and you would say, this person's alive. George Whitefield, we know George Whitefield, the friend of the Wesleys, 18th century. One of his biographers, the thing that he said in describing Whitefield was very simply, he's a man who's fully alive. Give us some examples of what that looks like in your church family.
Someone in my church family who I have, the greatest love for is actually my mother.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So my mother, she's a member of our church, and she's a godly Christian woman who's lived her life serving Christ. She's lived her life with a limp. Okay. So she was born with her hip dislocated, and the first couple of years of her life was in a caliper, and all her life. When I was a child, Mother's Day races, she's kind of running with a stick and limping. Okay. And physically, she turned 80 earlier in the year, and physically, main ailments, right? And so the world would walk past her quickly, leave her behind. But internally, my goodness me, she is being renewed day by day, and she can't say one sentence about Jesus without tearing up. She just loves the Lord so much. He's just changed her life. He's given her hope, and I think the world, our culture, just would not get that. That is joy. That is joy unspeakable, right? She's a giant, and is an enormous example to me and to many within our church family of faithful endurance, has experienced hard things, painful things domestically, family members who things have not gone as we'd want, etc. And many reasons to think, get me to glory, get me to heaven. I'm not heaven. She's wanting to serve Christ, with energy, and is more and more, in her older age, which is just a beautiful thing. So I think she would be someone who I would immediately think of as someone who embodied that in a very profound way. I can think of other ministry colleagues who I've worked with in my time before being here in Cardiff. I was serving the Lord in Cambridge, and one of my former colleague there who would have been approaching retirement and he'd kind of land the plane, a life of ministry, ready to move on. And what does God do? Calls him to go and be a missionary in Africa, and he and his wife just moved to Africa. I'm like, that is mad. Like he's got kids, grandkids maybe coming. Like land the plane, bro. Just like, enjoy being in that kind of swan song of ministry and opportunity. But no, he's going to serve Jesus and his wife, and they're just full of joy in the gospel. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I don't think you would do that apart from Christ.
Yeah, very good. It's beautiful, isn't it, that if we try to find happiness by ourselves in our own terms, it's never delivered. No. But Jesus simply says, if you seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, all these other things will be given to you as well. It's as if they're freebies when you come inside. Why is it, that trusting and following Jesus in that way is the greatest adventure of all? He comes down into the world at Christmas as our brother, born as one of us, joins our family, his advent, to allow us to go on this amazing adventure with him. Why is that the best of all lives, even with the good things and the bad things, in the midst of a culture, as we know at the moment, in which there's so many problems in terms of how we understand the world in which we live in, meaning, our purpose, where we come from, where we're going. Why is it that following Jesus within this culture and this world is, as in every culture, the best life of all?
Well, I'll come back to something that I remember hearing Tim Keller, who recently passed away, who some of your viewers were fans of, and I remember him saying that he was always so struck and so amazed by the fact that the thing about Jesus, as opposed to any other God that you could worship, idol, counterfeit God, is that this Jesus, when you get him, he satisfies you, but when you fail him, he forgives you, which is just so different from any other pursuit. So you live for the sports, you live for the relationship, you seek your happiness in your physical sensations of doing the bungee jump, or having the next sexual encounter, or having the next night out, or whatever. You pursue those, you'll get it. It won't satisfy you. You need more. You need more. But if you fail in any one of those things, you fail in your sport, you get dropped from the team. You fail in your music, you get dropped from the orchestra. You fail in your job, you're fired. You fail in a relationship, you are dumped. You fail. But Jesus, if you get Jesus, you don't need to look anymore. You're loved by someone who made you, who understands you for you. You're not being put on a mask and then now he'll love you. No. Take the mask off and he'll love you as you are. Amazing. And if you fail him, and I hate to break it to you, but we do fail Jesus in many respects, he does not boot us out. He's not like, I'm done with you. He's like, I'll forgive you. I've given my life for your past sins, your present sins, your future sins, which does not mean we soft pedal failure. We deal with it. Sure we do. But we know that he is in with us when we failed him, when we're lost at sea, when the happiness which we're longing for is actually not there, but our experience is much more kind of the sadness and the darkness, and that we haven't even talked about the mental health crisis, and that sometimes that darkness can move into some really very dark times, and a sense of hopelessness, and etc. And Jesus, promises to walk with us and sit with us and weep with us, even in those times too. My goodness me, there's no better journey. Why would you do another journey? The highs and lows, he'll take us different places to serve him. And as we do so, he's transforming us to become more like him, which is more human, more flourishing, more fruitful, more useful for God. Not, we should say probably, this is a kind of therefore no more pain. No more, in the way that no more kind of sickness, no more inconvenience. Now, things may increase following Christ. It's only increased for him the more he was faithful to his Father. It got hard for him. So he's not pretending it's going to get easy for you, but there is joy in that as we do the Master's business, and as we continue until when we are welcomed into his presence with the good and well done, good and faithful servant. And what a joy that will be to be welcomed into his.
Isn't that awesome, David? I think in the midst of a culture that we're in at the moment, in which the bar, we might say, is quite low, really, in terms of what's morally acceptable when we consider it and compare it with down history and around the world. And yet, within a culture of very low moral bar, if someone infringes that standard, they are thrown under the bus.
Yes, yes.
But isn't that wonderful? I always think that the standards of the living God, the standards of Jesus, are so much higher.
Yes.
And yet, when we infringe those standards, with Him, there's forgiveness.
Amazing.
And there's a new start, a new beginning, wiping away all our sins from the past. Dave, final question.
Yes.
We cannot make happiness for ourselves. Jesus is the only one who can give us real joy. How is it that He takes joy and pleasure and delight in us?
How does Jesus take delight in us? Well, I think one of the things I loved, you talked about the way we fail and the way that our culture can't forgive and throw us under the bus and get cancer, etc. I love the fact that I think it's in Hebrews chapter 2, the writer there describes Jesus not being ashamed to call us brothers. I mean, boom! Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome. He's got your back on the day that it counts. So on the last day, it's like, you need Him to have your back.
Embarrassing little brother. I don't know whether you had an embarrassing little brother.
No,
I was the embarrassing little brother.
He's the big brother you want in that scenario, isn't he? He's the big brother who's got your back when it counts. Absolutely.
It's amazing that he does that. He's not loving me knowing what I'm like. He's loving me, despite what I'm like. He's loving me not because I'm so good, but knowing I'm so bad. He's there for me. He's with me, and the delight of God, the pleasures of God is a great book I remember reading years ago by John Piper. God delights. He's the happiest being in the world. In outside the world, in all of creation, outside of creation, He is the happiest being. He always has done. It was for the joy set before Him that Christ endured the cross. He was joy hunting, going to the cross. Like, well, that isn't bad, but it gives Him great joy in bringing salvation. It gives Him great joy transforming us from one degree of glory to another. It gives Him great joy sustaining the world by the power of His word. He is full of joy, and He loves to welcome us into that.
Thanks so much, Dave. The world, when all said and done, is empty. It has nothing really to offer. And those of us that have tried everything that the world has to offer know that in the end there's very little there. But with Jesus Christ, there is lasting joy and hope and peace that will never end.
Glorious things of thee are spoken. That wonderful hymn by John Newton. Solid joys and
solid joys and lasting pleasures.
None but Zion's children know. Fading is the worldling's pleasure, all its boasted pomp and show.
That's it, and that's why we're here, to share that good news of Jesus and to help the land of Wales reconnect with Him again. Thanks so much for joining us, Dave.
Great.
God bless you.
Yeah.